So welcome to today's video. We are taking a look at my watercolor collection and on all my violet, purple and turquoise watercolor tubes. And we are starting again with the ones I wanted to use up first, and these are the non-light fast ones. I think I must turn the light a little bit down so that it doesn't reflect so much. So the first one, as you can see, is nearly completely used up. There is always a good amount of rest in it if you cut it open. I will do a dedicated video to how to cut tubes open and get all the color out separately. So this one is dioxazine purple. It was part of the high chroma set, and that's a very beautiful, very dark purple, and it's a PV 23. And this pigment is a little bit tricky because the pigment number is here. It is sometimes more or less light fast, so normally I handle it as a non-light fast pigment. It's more like mediocre, I would say. Then we have bright clear violet. This was also from a set. This is Jello Mission Gold, Korean brand, and this is bright clear violet. That's a mix of PV3 column 2, which is a non-light fast pigment. The PV3 is one which often is used as a replacement for dioxazine purple in cheaper brands, because the pigment is cheaper and they look very similar, but the dioxazine purple is better in light fastness than the PV3 that will fade over time pretty much completely. Then we have PV29 ultramarine blue and PR 122. That's quinacridone pink. You can also see that they only rated it with 2 stars, which is very correct. The last 2 pigments are very light fast, so that's the one getting the color a little bit of light fastness. Depending on how much the blue and the pink is, you will still have a purple left when the PV3 is faded, but I never did a light fast test on this one, so I can't say that for sure. Then I have the Shinhan PWC Permanent Violet, which is a PV3, and they have rated it with 2 of 3 stars. I would only give it a 1, to be honest. So that's the reason why it's not light fast, why I want to use it up. Then we have the Schminke Horadam Brilliant Red Violet. The brilliant colors are similar to opera colors, that they are always a pigment which is normally light fast, added fluorescent media to it, and that's the reason why the color is not light fast. They're so bad in light fastness that they not even gave them 1 star. Normally Schminke has a rating up to 5 stars, with 5 the best in light fastness rating, and the brilliant colors didn't even get 1 star. So that I think tells you everything, how bad those colors are in light fastness. They have the one looking like an opera rose, of course, that just, I think it is brilliant pink or something like that, and that is a little bit darker in color, a little bit more violetish, and they also have a color that looks more purplish. But this is also from a time where I didn't know that these colors are not light fastness, so that's a PV55. It's also a quinacridone pigment and a fluorescent pigment. Then we have two colors from Daniel Smith. The first one is Shadow Violet, which a lot of people I think know because it is a very beautiful mixture that has a very beautiful color separation effect if you add enough water to it. It is a mix of 3 pigments. It's a PO73, and that's the pigment which will fade over time. And then we have a PB29 ultramarine blue and a true Viridian PG18, which is a very expensive pigment. Those both are granulating and very light fast, so I definitely want to try to mix a light fast version of this color in the future, and I will do a video about it so that you can also do it by yourself. And the same I want to do for Moon Glow, because that's a color where a lot of people absolutely love, but the problem is that it is not light fast. So the problem here, it is also the PG18 and the PB29, like in the Shadow Violet, and the problem here is the anthraquinoid, oh, that's just so terrible to anthraquinoid red, the PR 177. That's the color that is absolutely not light fast at all. That fades completely in watercolor, especially in tints, and leaves the blue and the green. So from the violet color that separates in blue, green, and red, you later only have the blue and the green left. So those are all the not light fast purple colors. Then we are switching to the light fast. Tubes. So the first is Winsor Newton Professional Ultramarine Violet. As you can see, that's also nearly empty. Still have something left in here, but I can't really get it out with pressing, so I will have to cut it open. This is also PB15. That's a standard ultramarine pigment. This pigment is created while heating the ultramarine blue pigment, the PB29. When you heat it longer, then you get a PB15 ultramarine violet, and when you heat that one longer, then you will get the ultramarine pink. I think it's PR 259. If you are interested in seeing swatches of the ultramarine pigments, then I will let a link in the description box below for my ultramarine videos. There you can see all the ultramarines I have swatched in comparison to each other and get some information about the pigment as well. Then we have the Sennelier L'Aquarelle, which is the artist grade range from Sennelier, the Cobalt Violet Deep Hue. The word hue means that it is not the original pigment, but a lookalike, because Cobalt Violet pigments are the most expensive pigments used in commercial watercolor. There are, of course, way pricier pigments, but they are not standardly used. So from all the normal colors you can buy, I don't including any limited editions or handmade stuff, because handmade artisans often do unique pigments as well, but from the standard range, the Cobalt Violet pigments are the most expensive ones. So this hue is a 2-pigment mix between a PR 122, which is a quinacridone pink, and a PB16, which is a manganese violet. I don't like this color because I don't know why, it is very gooey and just doesn't work very well I always have the feeling that even when I mix it, that there is way more binder than pigment in it, and that's the only tube from Sennelier I have that problem with. I don't know if it has something to do with the color or if I just got a bad tube. So if you have this as a tube, then please let me know, because that's the reason why I included it in here to use it up. Then I have a tube from White Nights. It's damn it, sorry, quinacridone lilac. Geez, it's a PV19, but as you can see, it's not the typical pink, rose pink color. It's more a deeper color, more violetish, because this pigment can make pinks and violets and purples as well. So very light, fast pigment. Then I have this lavender color. I've bought it as one of my first tubes because of a recommendation, and then I realized that I not really enjoy working with those white mixtures a lot, so that's why I haven't used it a lot so far. It is a mixture between PV29 ultramarine blue, PV15 ultramarine violet, and PW6 white. It's a very beautiful color, but I'm not so much into the white pigments. Then I have the mineral violet from Mgram, and also I want to use up my the colors that are mixed colors, because in the future I want to have my palettes more with single pigment colors, with a few exceptions for colors. Color mixture I use a lot, like for example neutral tint or so. This one is a mixture of PV16 manganese violet and PV15 ultramarine violet. It's a nice color, but ultramarine violet and manganese violet are two colors I like and enjoy using a lot, so it is easily mixed by yourself, so that's why I want to use this one up. The next one is Cobalt Violet. That's one of my Cobalt Violets I have. As many viewers already know, the Cobalt family is one of my most favorite pigment family. I also have dedicated videos to the Cobalt family, also including Cobalt Violet, where I also will put a link in the description box below, so that you can watch this if you are interested in seeing the colors swatched and get some more information. So this is standard PV14 Cobalt Violet. I've bought this because Cobalt Violet is one of 3 pigments which I normally pre-wet. The others are the Genuine Viridian PG18 and the Potter's Pink PR 233, because those 3 pigments are very, very lazy and hard to re-wet, and that's easier. And as Mgram has a lot of honey in it, it is much easier to re-wet. That's why I thought, okay, let's buy the Cobalt Violet from Mgram, because it is easier to re-wet because of the honey. The problem is that even in the more dry and cool weather in Germany, this one just doesn't get hard at all. It stays liquid all the time. I've put it in a set which has on both side wells, and I let it dry for a month or so and thought, okay, now it has to be solid enough. I closed it, didn't really look which side is up. This was on the upper side, and it completely dropped down on the lower part of the palette. So that's the only reason why I thought it is just not so practical. because most of my palettes are ones to close. I don't have a lot of palettes which are static, like porcelain palette, which you can fill up. So yeah, for everything which is easily portable, it is not so so easy to handle. So that's the reason why I thought, okay, this is the cobalt violet I want to use up first. All of these colors so far are very good in light fastness because, as I said, those are the light fast versions I want to use up first. And then I have from a German brand, Lucas 1862, so it's 1862, the Cobalt Violet, but it is not a Cobalt Violet, it's a Cobalt Violet hue. They use the same pigment as Schminke uses for their Cobalt Violet hue. That's the PV62 Strontium Violet. Until I think last year, when Robin Schmal also included this pigment in their standard range, Lucas and Schminke were the only ones offering this pigment. I think the best deal is the Lucas one, depending on where you live, if you can get it for a good price, because the tubes are 24 milliliters, and the Lucas brand has a good pricing. Normally they're on the cheaper side. So yeah, get a lot of color with this little tube. It's a super beautiful, dark, strongly granulating pigment, very good in light fastness, and also a pigment which is used in the super granulating watercolors from Schminke. So if you are into granulation and into mixing your own granulating mixes, then this is definitely a pigment I can highly recommend getting in your collection. So then the rest of my violet and purple tubes are in here. I will put them out and order them a little bit by brand, and then I'll be back in a second. So now I have a lot of Daniel Smith watercolors, Schminke Horadam Naturals, Rosa Gallery, Holbein, Phoenix, White Nights, Magello Mission Gold, Shinhan PWC, Renaissance Intense, Rembrandt, My Mary Blue, Michael Harding, and Core. I'm starting with the one tube from Horadam Naturals, that is the Lalvarite or Lalvarite Violet. They don't have any pigment information for that. I think it is some kind of earthy violet, earth or stone stuff. I personally like those earthy kind of violet colors. That's also the reason why I have a lot of the, Caput Mortuum like colors in my brown collection. So the color itself is nice, but those are vegan watercolors. I'm not quite so sure about the consistency. I have only swatched it a little bit so far. I'm not quite sure if I like the consistency of the colors, to be honest. So I will have to work more with it to be really sure if I like it or not. Then I have Perylene Violet, which is, I think, a color a lot of people know. It's a PV29. This color is very good for shadows. It is a dark reddish kind of violet, and for example, a lot of botanical artists use this as shadow color for leaves, or some roses have more reddish kind of leaves when the leaves are fresh. I know this because we have a lot of roses in our garden, and this is very similar to that kind of red. purple color, so that's a great color for things like that as well. Then I have, of course, manganese violet, because I love manganese violet. Very beautiful granulating violet, PV16, super light fast. I also have a video about the manganese family, also one of the manganese manganese violet. Will include that in the description box below. I'm not quite sure if I think I already only have mentioned the ultramarine and the cobalt violet, but I also have the manganese violets. So then I have here the cobalt violet hue, and they have stated as hue, which I think is good. That's the strontium violet again, the PV62. Very, very beautiful. Then before we go to the tons of Daniel Smith, I will first do the other ones. We have the mineral violet from Holbein that was included in a set, because at the time I've bought this set, you could only get like 2 or so different sets via Amazon Germany. In Germany of Holbein colors, now I have a shop where which sells the single tubes, so I don't have to get sets anymore, luckily. This is a mixture of PB29 ultramarine blue, PR122, which is quinacridone pink, and PBR25 brown. That's the reason why it is a very muted kind of violet. I honestly don't like this one so much. Then I have from Rosa Gallery quinacridone lilac. I think that is one of the colors released last year, because the tube is completely untouched. I haven't used it so far, but it is a PV19, so should be super light fast and beautiful, because I also, next to the Cobalt family, the quinacridones are my next favorite. I think both of them are on the #1 spot, and then we are getting to other families. So ultramarine violet, #2 from Mugello Mission Gold. With Mugello Mission Gold, you always have to be careful, because a lot of colors they have as a ultramarine violet and then an ultramarine violet #2. They also have this with, for example, cerulean blue and stuff like that. And only one of them is the genuine pigment, and the other one is hue or color mix. So definitely be careful which numbers you're getting. This one is the genuine one, the PB15. Yeah, like ultramarine violet a lot. The other Mugello Mission Gold is also from a set that's red violet, and it's a mix between PR122 and PB29. Basically, if you are mixing ultramarine blue with any kind of pink, if it's a PB19 or a PB122 or what else, you will always get similar results if you are mixing it to a similar ratio between blue and red as ultramarine, Rose of Ultramarine from Daniel Smith. So it is a color which you can very easily mix yourself, and a lot of brands offering something similar, depending on how much the ultramarine blue granulates. Of course, is the color separation effect stronger or not as strong. So then this is the other lavender color I have from Shinhan PWC. The only reason why I have chosen to be this one to be not the one to use up first is that instead of PB29 ultramarine blue, this one uses cobalt blue PB28, which is a much more expensive pigment. But the rest is the same. We have a PB15 and we have a PW6. Then I have the Perylene Violet hue. So that is not a genuine Perylene Violet, it is a mixture. but the result is honestly very similar. So I was very interested in it because I never have seen a brand offering a perylene violet hue, and I wanted to see how good it looks in comparison, and also was interested in which pigments they are using for that mixture. They are using PR 101, which is a red iron oxide, the synthetic one, and the PB 60 was which is indanthrene blue, a very, very dark blue. So yeah, very interesting hue. Then I have two tubes from Phoenix, which is a Chinese brand. I have heard rumors that this may be the Winsor Newton Cotman tube colors white labeled. I don't know for sure, but if they are, these are the better choice because they are way, way cheaper. They are 8 milliliter tubes, and I've bought them on sale for less than euro per tube, so they are really, really, really cheap. They state that it is artist quality, but they are, I would say, good student grade quality. The mauve is a mixture between PR 122 and PB 23, so a quin pink and a dioxazine violet. So I would be careful with the light fastness. And the purple lake is a PB 19, a very dark PB 19 version. I haven't used them so far. They are both untouched, but I have used other colors from the brand, so I know at least something about the quality. Then I have two colors from White Nights. The first is again Perylene Violet, PB 29, and the other one is again Ultramarine Violet, PB 15. Then I have three colors from Rembrandt. I have Manganese Violet, PB 16. I have Ultramarine Violet, PB 15. And I have the Cobalt Violet, PB 14. So you can definitely see a pattern in my collection. Those three are probably the most, plus the quinacridone purples are probably I own the most of. Rembrandt is always a very good choice because you get a 20 milliliter tube, and the price is very, very cheap, at least here in Germany, in comparison to brands like Schminke or Daniel Smith, which is very expensive in Germany because of the import costs, of course. Then I have My Mary Blue. I've ordered those from Italian art shop, which is called Mom Arte. I will put a link into the description box below. The site is so far only in Italian, but with autocorrect it works very well. They also have a very good English speaking, very friendly support, and they're working currently on their English website, which will be online around this year, September, so September 24. And this is by far, at least here in Germany, the cheapest way to get to My Mary Blue tubes. They also have them on sale a lot at the moment. They are 25% off, and that way they are very cheap. They ship worldwide as far as I know. So I also have here the they call it ultramarine blue, but it is a PB 15 and it looks more purplish. I'm not quite sure why they call it blue. They could have called it ultramarine light and dark because we have an ultramarine violet PB 15 here as well. I have swatched them in my ultramarine violet video. So if you want to see them side by side, you can see them there. And then I have the quinacridone lake, which is PV19 color as well. The My Mary Blue watercolors are very, very beautiful. They're very pigmented and in comparison to other brands, more on the I would not say super cheap, but on the lower range in the price sector. Then I have the Cobalt Violet Dark from Michael Harding. You are not often getting darker cobalt violets, so that is the reason why I was interested in this one. It's a PV14 again. And I said it like this because there are two pigments which make cobalt violet. So most use the PV14. Then I have the ultramarine blue violet. That's a very old tube. As you can see, it's half empty. This is a color which is beautiful, but I wouldn't buy again just because it is a mixture between ultramarine violet and ultramarine blue, and it is super easily mixed yourself if you have the single pigment colors, which I have a lot of. So yeah. Then I have the ultramarine violet, PV15. Core watercolors are said to be hyper expensive, but to be honest, it really depends on which color you are buying. Some of the colors are around, at least in Germany, probably in the US it will be cheaper, are around 11 euros for the 11 milliliters. So we have a €1 per milliliter price, which is kind of normal because, for example, the Daniel Smith watercolors start in Germany for around 15 euros for 15 milliliters. So you have also €1 per milliliter. But there are some colors which are very expensive. And because of the lower amount of color, because it is 4 milliliters less to the standard size, some of the colors are hyper expensive. So you have to be careful which colors to buy if you want to get the best price offers. But there are definitely colors you can buy which are not hyper expensive in comparison to other brands. So this is the one cobalt violet I know which uses another pigment, and it's the PV49. It's the only watercolor I own or know that offers this cobalt violet pigment. The sad news here is that it was discontinued last year by Core because the pigment supplier didn't offer this pigment anymore. So I don't know how it is in other areas of the world, especially in the US, but in Germany some of the shops still have tubes of this one, but I guess in the very big shops in the US they probably are sold out already. Not quite sure because, like I said, cobalt violet is the most expensive pigment in standard watercolor. So that is of course not a color which is bought a lot because many people don't buy it because of the high price or because cobalt is cobalt colors are toxic. But if you are lucky, you can still get it. The color hue is very similar to some of the PV14s. You can also see this one swatched in my cobalt violet video if you are interested in seeing how it looks in comparison to other ones. If you really say, okay, I'm a pigment nerd, I'm a pigment collector, I don't have the pigment and I want to get a tube before it is gone forever, then yeah, you have to be fast before they are all sold out on every shop. So now the Daniel Smith collection. We start with Imperial Purple. Imperial Purple is a mixture between PV19 and ultramarine blue PV29. The amount of PV29 ultramarine blue is higher, so we get a darker purple. And because the ultramarine blue is granulating and the quinacridone is not, if you add in a lot of water, you have at least a little bit of color separation effect. It is basically the same mixture we have in Rose of Ultramarine, but with a higher amount of blue in it. Rose of Ultramarine probably is a color a lot of people know because of its stunning color, which is similar to this when it's completely mixed, but it has a very strong color separation between the pink and the blue. If you're adding a lot of water to it, it is also a PV29 and PV19 mixture. Those two colors are very beautiful, but I would never buy them again because it is just so easy to mix it by yourself. You don't need a PV19 if you have a PR 122 or any kind of other primary magenta looking pink. You can easily mix it with an ultramarine blue and get the same results. Stunning colors, but easily mixed yourself. Like they are very old. I've already used up a lot of them. So this basically was my very first color separating color I ever owned. And yeah, I haven't used it in many years just because I have a pink and an ultramarine blue in every set, and it is just so easy to mix it yourself, and it just takes an unnecessary spot in a palette. Yeah, we'll have to try to use it up somewhen, but like I said, it's so easy to mix it yourself. Then to the quinacridone collection, we are starting with quinacridone violet, which is PV19, a dark PV19. Then I have the quinacridone purple. You can see a little bit of the color here. I think this is the same which is used for the brilliant, the same shade than it is used for the brilliant purple color from Schminke. It's a PV55, very beautiful color, but this one has no fluorescence, so it is light fast. Then we have the quinacridone lilac, which is PR 122. It is not the standard pink color you are knowing. It is more a purplish color, so that's why they are not in the pink but in the purple collection. All very beautiful. Then we have the color they call carbazole violet, but it is basically a PV23, so it is a dioxazine violet. I have no clue why they don't just name it dioxazine violet. That I don't know, but on Handprint, this version from Daniel Smith is listed as the most light fast watercolor of the PV23 pigment. As you can see, it also used a lot of it already. Then we have the cobalts. We have the cobalt blue violet. This is a mixed color, so that's also one I wouldn't buy again because it's basically a cobalt blue PV28 mixed with a PV19 quin rose to get a purple color. A lot of brands do offer those mixture as a cobalt violet because it's cheaper than the cobalt violet genuine pigments. And I have the Cobalt Violet Deep, which has a very beautiful deep color, which is very unusual for cobalt violets because they are more on the lighter side. So a very unique shade. It's also a PV14. Very beautiful, like it a lot. Then I have the ultramarine red. You can also see this in the ultramarine pink, I think, video. It's a PV15, but probably one which is burnt longer than the standard PV15 because it tends more towards a pinkish shade of purple than the other ultramarine violets do. Then I have Bordeaux. It's a PV32. They've listed it with good in light fastness, but I have heard people saying that they've tested the pigment and that it is not so good in light fastness, more mediocre. So I am since then careful with this one. Then Naphthalite Maroon. This is a very surprising expensive color. I think it is series 4, which is the second one from the 5 is the most priciest one, and I think that's a series 4. That is a super beautiful color, very light fast pigment. It's a benzimidazolone maroon PR 171. Then we have from the Primatech line the Hematite Violet Genuine. Like I said, I like these kind of earthy violet colors. That's why I have a lot of hematite violets and caput mortem colors. Pigment information just says genuine hematite. It is known that in the Primatech line, which contains minerals and gems, that they not only use the mineral or the gems in the color, they add other pigments to it. There was a chemist testing them many years ago, and the Amazonite genuine, which is a green color, was mostly containing PG7. So I know that, but I still buy Primatech colors because of the beautiful color. When I have one, I say the colors which are colors I like, but that is definitely something you should be aware of, that it is not 100% only the gem or the stone or the mineral stated on it. I also know that the Fuchsite Genuine, which is turquoise metallic color, that it definitely contains something else, because I have a 100% Fuchsite Genuine from a handmade brand, and it is basically a super light greenish color, which is basically, it looks like a completely transparent color where you barely can see any hint of green, and it is just glitter, because Fuchsite is the green version of Muscovite, which is the mineral which is the mica powder made of. So you have the normal, the Muscovite, which is basically your colorless glitter, and you have the Fuchsite, which is nearly colorless glitter with a barely hint of a green. So to get this kind of turquoise color, they definitely have to add something else to it. So yeah, but it is still a very beautiful color. And the Purpurite Genuine, you can also see swatched in my Manganese Violet video, because this is, that's the information I have, an unpure Manganese Violet. It is very beautiful, to be honest. So that were all the violet colors, and we are continuing with the turquoise colors. I don't have any not light fast one in my use up first. So we are starting with first use up, but non-light fast. And the first one is from Van Gogh. That is the turquoise green. which is a lighter turquoise green. It has a very beautiful shade. It is very interesting because it's a PB15 phthalo blue and PB29 ultramarine blue mixture. I was always wondering how they get this turquoise greenish color with two blues, but I have seen versions of PB15 which are very turquoisey, so I guess they've used a very turquoisey PB15 version to mix it with the ultramarine blue. Very beautiful color. That's the Van Gogh line is student grade range, but that's one of my most favorite student grade ranges. They are amazing, and the price per value is awesome. In Germany here, the 10 milliliter tubes cost around €3, so they are very, very affordable. And then we have from White Nights the turquoise blue, and I have chosen this to use up first, but I have a lot of colors like that where you have either ultramarine blue or a phthalo blue mixed with a phthalo green. And this is a phthalo blue PB15 column 3 and a PG7 phthalo green mix. I try to use up those colors because this is also something, it is just so easy to mix by yourself. I've bought them when I hadn't had a clue about pigments, and I like turquoise, so that's why I have a few of those. But those are all pigments I have standardly in basically any palette I own, so yeah, they are just unnecessary and so easy to recreate them yourself. Then I have two cobalt turquoise colors from Winsor & Newton Professional. The first one is the Cobalt Turquoise Light, which is a PG50 color. I also have a video about the Cobalt turquoises. We'll put a link in the description box where you can see them swatched. There is for your basic Cobalt turquoise, or in English it is more often called Cobalt teal, two pigments which make this light turquoise color. It's either a PG50 or a PB28 cobalt blue. The PG50 one is a hint more towards green, while the PB28 is a hint more towards the blue normally, with the exception of the Schminke Horadam version, which is a PG50 but tends more towards blue. I personally like the ones tending towards green a little bit more, like this one. This, I think, was also my first cobalt turquoise tube I had. That's why it is already completely empty. Then we have the turquoise, cobalt turquoise. And in the past, this color was a single pigment color. And I have absolutely no clue why they have changed it to this two pigment mixture. It is now PB28 cobalt blue mixed with a PB36, which is also a cobalt pigment. The PB36 comes in two versions. It is either your cerulean blue color or a dark turquoise color. And the reason why I want to use up this one first is because the tube is smaller and I have a lot of PB36 turquoise versions from other brands, so I don't need a two pigment mix when I have a lot of single pigment versions of this one. So those are the first use up, and then I have my collection of turquoise tubes. You can see that these are a lot less than I have from other brands, not other brands, other color groups, because there aren't a lot of turquoise pigments which really makes a turquoise. Most turquoises are, like I said, a mixture, so that's the reason why yeah, a lot of them are either cobalt turquoises or phthalo or phthalo ultramarine mixtures. So starting with Shinhan PwC, we have the Peacock Green, which is a mixture of PG7 and PB15 column 3, like the White Nights ones, but this is a bigger tube, so that's the reason why I first choose to use up the White Nights one. Then we have the Marine Blue, and this is a PB15 column 3, and this is the turquoise version of the PB15 column 3. So it looks very similar to a PB16, which is a phthalo turquoise, single pigment phthalo turquoise. That's a very beautiful color. That's the only other single pigment turquoise next to cobalts. There is either the PB15 column 3, the turquoise version, or the PB16. All others are mixtures normally. There are, of course, other pigments which make turquoise kind of color, like copper blue, for example, but they're not used in standard watercolor. You can only get them normally from someone handmade. So I have two colors from My Merry Blue. The first is, and the naming here is very confusing. Three ones. The naming is very confusing with those two. The first one is turquoise green, which is the PB16. There it is, the phthalo turquoise color. And then they have two turquoise, cobalt turquoises, and the naming is just terrible, to be honest, because the first is named cobalt blue green and the other one is cobalt green blue. It would be much easier to tell them apart if it would be a cobalt turquoise and cobalt teal, or a cobalt turquoise light and dark, or something else, but green blue and blue green, yeah. This one is a PB36, that's the blue green, and the green blue is also a PB36. So as you can see on the stripe here, they are a little bit different. One is a little bit more bluish, one is a little bit more on the greenish side. You can also see them swatched in the cobalt turquoise video if you're interested. Then we have the cobalt turquoise green from Rembrandt, which is also a PB36. No, it's a PG26, so that's a unique one. That's the one PG26 one I have in as a turquoise in a tube, but I know I also have in a pan a PG26 turquoise one in from Paul Rubens. This one I think is not swatched in the video because I've bought it after it, but the Paul Rubens version is swatched in the turquoise video, so you can see it there. It's another cobalt pigment. Then we have cobalt turquoise from Renaissance Intense, and it's PG50. I honestly haven't swatched this one so far. I'm a little bit confused because it looks like a very dark blue, which is a very unusual color for this pigment. I have bought a lot of those when they were super on sale, because they were super cheap. Okay, looks more like like a cerulean blue color, to be honest. We'll have to swatch this and look if it fits more in the turquoise or in the cerulean blue category when it is swatched. Then I have two cobalt turquoises from Schminke. I have the cobalt turquoise and the cobalt green turquoise. That's basically a light and a dark version. This is the PG50 version, which is more on the bluer side, and it's also a PB36. So you can see there are a lot of brands offering a single pigment PB36. So yeah, I see no need to buy the two pigment mix again from Winsor Newton. Then I have the Peacock Blue from Jello Mission Gold. This is also from the set I've bought in the past. And it is also, again, a PB15 column 3 PG7 mix, like the other two we already had. After the White Nights version, probably I will use up this one next because it's only 7 milliliters. Then I have the Cobalt Teal from Core, which is another PG50, more on the greener side teal version. This is a very beautiful version. You can see I've used a lot of it already. Was also part of the High Chroma set. Super beautiful Cobalt Teal. Then I have the Cobalt Green from Sennelier L'Aquarelle, which is also a PB36. This is a very new tube. I've bought it a few months ago. I haven't used it so far. I haven't bought a lot of Sennelier colors in the past because they only had the small 10 milliliter colors. But now, since I think a year or so, the shop I get them from has this big 21 milliliter tubes, and they are very cheap in comparison to other brands. So I guess I will finally get some more Sennelier colors because that's a brand I have super few, I think around 10 tubes or so, and only one pan set with 10 colors or so. So that's definitely one of the major brands where I have the least colors probably from. So Rosa Gallery is PB28 Cobalt Turquoise. That's the other versions for the Cobalt Teal. The White Nights also offer a PB28 version. It's interesting that both of them use the 28 version instead of the PG50. I have made the realization that brands that are more of the eastern part of the world often uses the PB28, and more on the western western side of the world they use more the PG50 for the cobalt turquoise, cobalt teal colors, which is interesting. Then I have the cobalt turquoise from Calm Supervision. This is also a PG36 version. Then up to the Daniel Smith watercolors. We have 3 here, which are, I think this is, yeah. These are basically similar to the mixes we already had. The Phthalo turquoise is the PB15 column 3 mix, but here they use the PG36, which is the phthalo green yellow shade, and not the PG7, which is the blue shade of phthalo green for the mixture. And here we have ultramarine turquoise, which is basically a PB29 PG7 mixture. That are also colors I would never buy again, just because it is so easily mixed. Then we have the phthalo blue turquoise, and this is the PB16, the phthalo turquoise, the single pigment color. So that I would buy again. It is a beautiful color and it is a single pigment color. And the PB16 is not so often, a lot of brands don't offer it. So there are only a handful brands offering the pigment as a single pigment color. But as far as I have seen, most of them are very, very beautiful. So then I have two cobalt turquoise colors. We have the cobalt turquoise and the cobalt teal blue from Daniel Smith. The cobalt teal blue is the PG50 version, the lighter version. And the cobalt turquoise is again the single pigment PB36 version. So a lot of PB36 cobalt turquoises. And the last color for today is the Sleeping Beauty Turquoise Genuine from the Primatech series. With the Kingsman green turquoise or Kingsman turquoise, I'm not quite sure. These two are the most expensive watercolors in the Daniel Smith range. They cost 30 euros per tube in Germany. And I've seen the video from Dr. Otto Cano comparing those two. And basically, if you add a little bit of yellow to it, you get the same shade as the Kingsman green. So that's why I haven't bought the Kingsman green. Both of them, the name, I think it is from the mine where the turquoise stone, which is in those colors, is mined from. One, I think, is the Kingsman mine, and the other is the Sleeping Beauty mine, or the mountains. I'm not quite 100% sure. I would have to look it up. But the name comes from that. They are made, like I said, with turquoise, the gemstone, which is often used in jewelry, for example, from Native Americans, or also ancient Egypt and other ancient cultures did value the stone a lot, and it is, as today, a stone which is often used in jewelry of any kind. Like I said, I don't know how much it really contains from it, and it is more a color for color and pigment collectors, because it is very similar to cobalt turquoises. I think I will do a video comparing these two cobalt turquoises so that you can see how similar it is. So yeah, it is nice to have, but definitely only if you have the money to, and are a pigment nerd like I am. That wouldn't be a color I would recommend normally to buy, just because it is so expensive, and you can get with a cobalt turquoise a much cheaper similar looking color. And if you're thinking that normally cobalt colors are one of the priciest, I think it says everything to say that the cobalt color is way cheaper than this one. So yeah, nice to have for collectors and pigment nerds, but nothing I would normally recommend. It is a very beautiful color, but just not a necessary color to have. So yeah, that were all my purple and turquoise color. I really hope that the video was interesting and helpful for you. Let me know in the comments below if you have favorite purples or turquoises, or if you are now interested in any of the colors. And yeah, as always, a thumbs up or a follow is very, very much appreciated, because it really, really helps me on the channel. So thank you very much for those. And I hope you have a nice day and join me soon in another video. Bye bye.